The world is ending. The population's collapsing. Prices are out of control. It's $30 a month for Xbox Game Pass now. That's it. I'm just going to spend. Screw it. Bankruptcy for the win. That intro triggered my girlfriend. So, before we get into the topic at hand, nothing I am saying in this is financial advice. I'm talking about my experiences, my perspective, and my fucking opinion on things. I am going to explore both sides of the argument. You know, there's the Dave Ramsey, Caleb Hammer side, and then there's the Gen Z side. And as a Gen Xer, I don't know where I stand. Because I've done it all. I've done all the things. All the bad things, all the good things. More of the bad things than the good things, hence the reason I'm in the prison box. But I want to kind of explore perspectives on this and maybe get to the bottom of why it's so prevalent. Because look, the reason we have this level of greed and an inflation is because people are swiping their cards like it's free. Like it don't matter. And I can understand completely how tempting and easy it is because I've done it. You know? It's hard to justify saving cash right now because that same cash is going to lose over the next 2-3 years, is going to lose probably another 20 to 25% of its value. And let's not even start if we get to hyperinflation territory. You know, the writing's on the wall. The government's doing all kinds of things that are going to devalue the debt. Well, you can't devalue the debt without devaluing the dollar. You know, when you have that level of debt and you want it to be easily repaid, you need your dollar to be worth a lot less. You know, and as I've said before, right now there's plans in the works to revalue gold with the reserves that the government has, and also to use our debt to infiltrate crypto via stablecoins. Basically devaluing the dollar on an international level and basically stiffen all the people we owe money to. Well, speaking of stiffen all the people we owe money to, we can talk shit about the government all day, but the fact is, when I'm out here, what I'm seeing, everyone's doing the same fucking thing the government's doing. Spending money they don't have, and they just keep doing and raising the limit and, you know, keep on going, you know. I see people driving their luxury-ass vehicles with a 7-year car note for $1,000 a month, and I'm like, this is why everything's fucked. Everyone is doom spending. That's right, everybody. You may think you're not, but you are. You're contributing. You're printing money. The more money we print and put out into this economy, and I'm not just talking about government printing. Everyone wants to focus on that. I can print money. You know, unless you fucked your credit, you can print money. Literally just now, I printed myself a meal at Denny's. It was pretty good. It was $29 with the tip, which is kind of respectable for the amount of food I got. I'm pretty fat and full right now and probably getting some kind of problem with all the grease I ate. But that being said, everyone in there is happy because, you know, they're getting paid, I assume, a decent wage. They got a decent tip out of it, and it looked pretty busy, actually, for all the truck stops I've been at. This is a Flying J I've stopped at because I got tired of McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Burger King, and the usual Fast food options, I wanted to have a sit-down meal. Not that it was any healthier. That being said, it's easy to whip out that credit card. It's hard to not. You know, that little pain center in your head that says you can't afford something, that doesn't work with credit cards. It doesn't. You don't. I've watched people do it. I've seen it, and I've done it myself, and it doesn't trigger any pain. You know, any major, like I've spent $1,000 in one shot on a credit card, and it didn't feel the pain. Where if I was sitting there counting $1,000 out, and then going through my head and saying, "Hey, that's a whole week's paycheck, more than likely." I make a little more than that now, but if you account for inflation. But that's the thing. You're spending all this money, but you don't feel the pain. You don't understand the amount of time it's going to take you to not only pay that back, but to pay the interest on it, to pay any fee. Like if you don't pay it off every month, then if you've had any interest charges on your credit card, you can say, "Oh, I know how to use credit. I got points," but if you're getting an interest charge on your credit card, then you are using credit cards poorly. You are doom spending. You give no shits, and you're going to absorb an extra amount of money bleed, which is time, from your life to get something right now. So in this video, I want to explore the mentality behind doom spending, the pros and cons of each, and the pros and cons of doom saving. That's foregoing all dopamine, all hedonism and consumption, and going full minimalist and saving and building wealth so that later on down the line, assuming the world didn't end, you get to live a more wealthy, financial freedom style life. One involves enslaving yourself. The other involves working your way, suffering now, and becoming free later. A lot of the younger generation, according to what I see on the internet and what I see out here, to be honest, they're all about whipping them cards out. You can go on TikTok, on YouTube, on all of these, and you can see just endless amounts of people with $60,000 to $70,000 of credit card debt. That's 29 to 30% interest, which, by the way, that interest rate compensates the credit card for the inflation. Because otherwise, if they gave us the old interest rates from way back in the day, guess what? They'd be taking a bath on inflation, because you would go out, you doom spend your shit, there'd be 20% decrease in the value of the dollar, and guess what? They would have to eat that because they had you locked in at a 4 or 5% interest rate. That's the thing, and anything that's at that interest rate is fully encouraging you to spend. And then they give you points, which is a little bit shaved off of that. But make no mistake, the math is in their favor, and you're probably bleeding money if you carry a balance. And that's one of the reasons I came back out on the road, as I saw that pattern. I could have squoze out another probably year of, no, it would have been hard. I'd have had to open another credit account at some point. But I probably could have figured out how to basically stay retired for another year. Another year doing whatever, and then just using the credit cards. And then, once I got done with that, I could go out and get me one of them handy consolidation loans at 15%, maybe 9% if your credit rating's good. And guess what? You get the consolidation loan, you pay off all the credit cards, you've doubled your debt. And you could do it again. There's another year. So when the young people are doing this, I feel like it's a losing proposition, because you don't know that the world's going to end. Yeah, it seems like it, but it's been seeming like it for the last 20 fucking years. 20 years is a long ass fucking time. So by the time you're 40, if you've been living in that, oh, I'm just going to run up my credit card debt all this fucking time, you're going to reach the point where your minimum payments aren't there anymore, and then welcome to bankruptcy. We'll get into bankruptcy in a minute. Because it's almost like a get out of fuck you card to the corporate world. And with the way everyone's being greedy and price gouging and all that shit, I don't have a lot of sympathy for people that file bankruptcy on the corporations. I have a bankruptcy under my belt back in the early 20s. I didn't know shit from shit. There was no internet to go on at the time that was worth the shit that you could find out about things like personal finance and all of that. There were no real classes. They definitely didn't teach it in any school or college. It's just, hey, you had to kind of go out here and figure it out. Maybe read some documents and some fine print. Maybe you can find a book somewhere if you were so inclined, but no one ever fucking told me what books to read or where to go or any of that kind of shit. I had to figure this out through trial and error, and I did all the errors. In my early 20s, I repossessed a brand new vehicle. I basically over-leveraged. I used payday loans. I did credit cards. I did all of the shit. And I was in the military at the time. And in the military, there's an actual law. Financial irresponsibility. You can be court-martialed for it. The only way out of that law was bankruptcy, because bankruptcy protects you from any collection action, any legal action against you, and pretty much nullifies your debt if it's Chapter 7. Chapter 13, it's like the same as a consolidation loan with maybe, you're paying a minimum payment for a while if you do Chapter 13. I did Chapter 7. I wiped the slate clean. And after that, I couldn't get a brand new vehicle. I had to drive the biggest pieces of shit you could buy. 2000. I think the cheapest car I ever bought, and I drove that motherfucker for almost a year, $500. I put maybe $1,000 in repairs here and there over the course of a year, but I drove a $500 car for a year. It had fucking spray paint for the outside. It was a Toyota. So, it was great. I kind of missed that car. That car had a lot of fucking personality. And I ended up selling it too. That's the other thing. It didn't die. It would have probably kept going if it had been repaired enough. But that's the point. For the next 10 plus years, not only did I not go back into debt, because there were offers. I think I got one credit card later on that was insane, like low, we're talking a $200 credit card, with a 30% interest rate, basically predatory loans are about all you can get after you go bankrupt. At the time, it didn't affect renting, whereas nowadays they do credit checks for renting. So, yeah, your housing situation is going to start to suck if you go bankrupt nowadays. But I never missed it. I enjoyed being low debt, I did get a shitty car loan, predatory car loan later. That car I paid it off, but that car was a pile of shit. I ended up paying $2, $3, $4 in repairs while paying the predatory car loan. But after a while, I got to the point where I would buy a car outright. The number one mistake I see out here as a truck driver, I've seen it. I see it all day, every day. Most people I've seen, not all, there's maybe 25% that are driving vehicles that look a little older and are probably either at the tail end of their 7-year fucking lease or whatever, or they've been paid for outright. But the vast majority of vehicles I see on the road, car notes all day. You can tell they're brand new. There's no way, with the level of credit card debt and all of that shit going on, that these are paid for cars. These are all car notes, and people drive them around like they're fucking rich. No, you look rich. You printed some money and bought a brand new fucking vehicle. Well, congratulations. I recently just made this similar mistake, but it wasn't brand new. It was a 3-year-old vehicle. I always had the policy that, so let someone else eat the first 3 years of depreciation and then maybe get that. But that didn't work in the last 5 years in the car market. So now I'm sitting here with a vehicle. I owe $28,000 on it now, $28,300 $1,800 or something. It's worth 26 if I were to sell it. Probably less because it's been in an accident and it's got some repairs that need to be done. So we're saying maybe 24,000. So I'm underwater on a used vehicle that's approaching 5 years old. It's 4 years old right now. And if I pay the 7-year loan term on it, I'll have paid $54,000. Well, no, $48,000 for what by then will be, a 7-year-old vehicle. That's, and then if you look at the fact that when you have a car note, you have to carry full coverage insurance. How's the insurance market going right now? Well, guess what? Well, I did the math on this, and if I carry my loan to term and maintain, this is assuming the insurance doesn't go up any more than it already has, and it will, I guarantee it will, till everything collapses anyway. I will have paid $84,000 for this vehicle. When I bounced that off the Prius, which was $15,000, same age when I bought it, by the way, I used it to earn more than $15,000 in the gig economy. It also saved me thousands of dollars in hotel costs when I traveled. So I definitely made a profit on that, but it was starting to be where I'd have to put $1,000 in maintenance in every year. And for that stupid reason, is why I went out and made the biggest financial mistake that 80% of motherfuckers are making out here, and that is buying and financing a newer vehicle, all because reliability. Well, guess what? I bought a newer vehicle, and it's less reliable than my old shitty Prius was. I probably could have brought it in, spent $1,000, and guess what? I wouldn't be in this box today because I wouldn't have a fucking car payment, and I wouldn't have to carry full coverage insurance. I could pay fucking liability with the shittiest fucking insurance company I can find. Probably pay $60 a month for liability insurance at best, and so that has got me out here doing this now. And that's the downside that I feel like the doom spenders don't get. It's not sustainable, because if you go out and you max out all your credit and you keep getting more credit, and then you double down with a consolidation loan and you do all of that, and this is for the 20-somethings out there, you're doing the exact opposite of what you should be doing. Because if you invest as a 20-something right now, you've got time on your side, and guess what? You'll be a millionaire by the time you're in your 40s and 50s and can retire. Completely retire. Don't gotta work no more. So if you doom spend in your 20s and you get to your 40s, you're fucked with a capital F. There's no retirement. There's none of that. You've probably filed bankruptcy at that point. So good. Yeah, you stuck it to all the creditors that you fucked with. But you probably got a student loan, and you can't discharge a student loan on that. You won't be able to buy a house. Even if you did all the right things right now, you probably would be able to buy a house, but it'd hurt. If you were investing instead of doom spending, then by the time you're in your 40s, you definitely would be able to afford, even in today's prices, a house. Of course, that would be where your money went, because the housing prices are ridiculous. There's a crash coming though, so I feel like, economies reset themselves. So, in your 20s, I can tell you from experience, as a doom spender who went bankrupt, it depends on your life goals, I guess. If you want a future, a house, all of that, all these things I still don't have, by the way. I spend most of my time in here and living out of bags, going to my mother's house or going to my girlfriend's house when I'm off. But I don't have all the things. The van I have right now, I don't own it. Bank owns it. I miss 1 or 2 payments, guess what? They're going to yank that fucker right out of there. It's got a little chip in it from your, like what they put the SIM card from your cell phone. They have that installed in the vehicle right now. That means no matter where I am, they know where the fucking thing is. They can come get it in the middle of the night, and then you'll be without a vehicle if you miss a few payments. That means I don't fucking own it. So all you fuckers driving your, cyber trucks or all the other stupid overpriced shit that you're driving on the roads, guess what? You fuck up, you lose your job, you get laid off, the government shuts down and your government contract dries up. Well, guess what? You're fucked. That's gone. They'll come get it from you. And the more you've doom spent, the more you're just on the edge, because those minimum payments every month will start to climb, and pretty soon they'll be at least 50% of what you make. Eventually they'll just spiral onward, and you can go, like, I watch Financial Audit a lot, where he basically takes the 20-somethings in and just yells at them and calls them stupid for fucking an hour, and it's great. I love it. It's very, I don't know, therapeutic for me to listen to that. But they're all doing the same dumb shit, and in their 20s they're up to, I think the highest I heard was $300,000 in debt, but I think that did include a house, a lot of student loan debt, and of course a ton of credit card debt. Well, that's one side of the doom spending. What happens when you're in your 60s? Let's say you made it to your 60s. And right around the time you're just about having to go to the doctors, and they're going to charge you money to live. What happens if you maintain decent credit that whole time? And guess what? You got maybe 20 to sometimes $100,000 of available credit that you haven't ran you didn't doom spend, but you didn't save either. But you have good credit, you've made your payments, your minimum payments a lot. And if you do make your minimum payments and you don't use a credit card, eventually after 20-something years, it'll get paid off or whatever. Don't even go into how much money you lost doing that. But say you made it to your 60s and Social Security's gone and all the prices of everything are getting out of control and everything's fucked. But you have a lot of available credit. I cannot argue against doom spending in that scenario, because you're probably going to fucking die. You're going to lose anything you did accumulate, because guess what? Once you're in the medical system, they're going to start taking shit. I had a doctor tell my mother that they wanted to take her house. The only asset she owns outright, no mortgage, none of that. To get a line of credit to pay the doctor. No. But that's right. That's the medical treadmill. They ruin you with the shitty diet your whole life, and who knows what non-food shit that they're putting in food. And then you get to the finish line and they want to take it all so that you can go stay in the hospital and do all kinds of tests every fucking month. I've never seen so many MRIs in my life that I've seen with some of the elderly people in our population. And guess what? $50,000 a pop right there. So in that scenario, you don't have retirement. Your 401k doesn't exist. You didn't get a pension. You didn't do any of the fucking shit you should have done in your 20s. I can't say that that's not what happens when you're 65, 70 and you file bankruptcy. Ooh. Darn. I might have to live another 10 to 15 years, and I won't be able to get a loan or an apartment or that. No, in that case, I can't argue with it. Doom spend. If you're at retirement age and you didn't save to be at retirement, I can't argue with it. It's actually smart. It's something my late friend Steve told me, is like, if I were to die next year and I still owe $20-something thousand on my car, guess what? I won. I got to drive around a newer car and I maybe paid a couple grand for it. Because the debt will die with me. They'll take the car back, but, the point is, it's the same with anything. You take your credit card, you go out and buy something valuable with it, something that doesn't depreciate very well. And guess what? You file bankruptcy, you still have that, whatever that is. It's a consumer good. They don't come after that during bankruptcies. They come after the big assets. Like you own a house, they're coming for that. you own a car outright or anything seriously, any savings or any of that kind of shit in bankruptcy, they come and take all of that. But they don't take the shit you bought at fucking Walmart or at the store or online at Amazon or none of that shit. And, or they don't take the time that you got. Like if you took a vacation to the Bahamas or some shit and spent that as part of your retirement, all of that stuff, they can't get back. That is an argument, and I actually know some people of the elder years that they've pretty much, they're at the point they've maxed out their available credit, trying to get more credit and didn't do it. But I can't fault them, because if you look at everything getting out of control right now, it is what it is. Do I think it's the right thing to do? No. I'm in here for a reason. If I thought doom spending was a good thing, I'd still be doing it. I'd have figured out some way to, juggle the credit and keep it snowballing until I have $80,000 in credit card debt. And guess what? I probably could have squeezed off another 5, 6, 7 years of retirement. Remember, I already have 5 years under my belt, and I'm turning 50, so I'm ahead of the game. If I die at age 50, guess what? I already had some of my retirement. Not everyone who dies at age 50 can say that, now can they? I don't think I'm going to die at 50. I still think it's 62, contrary to Dave, who likes to somehow think I'm going to live till I'm fucking 80. I don't think it's going to happen. I already see signs of things starting to fall apart. So I think by the time I'm 60, I'm just going to be one of those statistic Americans that has to be in the healthcare system. Of course, I'm too stubborn to do that, so I'm sure that it comes to an end. That being said, I still am trying to do it the right way, and I'm turning 50. I'm still trying to pay off my debt. I want to be debt-free again. I want to pay off the fucking van. That would take a lot longer in this box, and I'm considering it, to be honest, because I just can't stomach the $84,000 if I just maintain the payments on the van for 7 years. Not to mention it's going to fucking fall apart. It's a COVID car. It was made in 2021 when no one gave a shit about quality. Not that they give a shit about quality in 2025, it seems. I feel like the quality of everything is deteriorating. And then when I look at other things like the population collapse and all of the other things that are just, if you're doing the odds and you're in your 50s and 60s and you're looking at all of that and you're like, this whole thing's just going to fall apart and collapse and we'll be in a Great Depression anyway, might as well go down and load up on shit for the Great Depression. Make sure to get some, some food storage and some ammo and all the other stuff, the other stuff you should have if the shit hits the fan. That stuff's going to be very valuable when everything collapses versus that piece of plastic in your pocket with made up and printed numbers on it. Because guess what? The bank that's loaning you that shit, they just printed the money. They don't have that money. Capital One doesn't have a fucking savings account. No. They're printing money. Printing money from money they earned off of other people. That's it. It's a big snowball till it all falls apart. So, I can't argue with that. Now let's talk about doom saving. Now them saved 20-somethings right now who are financially collapsing around age 31, 32, 33, some of them. They've been doing it for their entire 20s. They lived the greatest 20s ever. They bought all the shit. They got their Labubu. They got all of their fucking iPhones and Apple Watches and brand new cars and all of that. And then in their 30s, it all fucking falls apart. Their minimum payments become untenable. They can't afford rent. They can't afford a place to live. And they're essentially fucked. So yeah, doom spending didn't work out for them. Because the world didn't end. Guess what? Yeah, the 20s were rough. It's still rough out here. I ain't gonna lie, there's so many things to bitch about. Look, I got a whole bunch of videos to put out on things that I think are fucked up and need to be changed or fixed, or else we're fucked. That being said, it could take 30 years for us to reach the full fucking. So when I see these young people doing it in their 20s, and I'm like, oh, I remember what that was like, because I did it. And the world didn't end. No, we're still here. You know, a lot of people thought the world was going to end during 9/11. I was there for that. Guess what? Didn't end. Probably should have invested. So the 20-somethings are doing it all wrong. This is the time, especially since it's normalized to live with your parents now. Because that's how the rest of the world does it, by the way. Only us fucking Americans were like, oh, you need to get out. No, the rest of the world, it's multi-generational households. That's how they'll have 15 motherfuckers in a house. Well, that's where we're headed. It's almost a necessity for the younger folks for housing nowadays. Rent is so untenable that you need roommates. Same thing, and people in their retirements. They can't afford their retirement and to live alone. So, these are multi-generational. Well, in your 20s, do that if you can, if you have that option. If not, there's always van life or car or lots of roommates, more than you're comfortable with. And essentially get to that point where you minimize your costs and do that sacrifice thing in your 20s. The chances of you not making it to your 30s and 40s are, a lot lower than, say, someone who's in their 50s and 60s. You're going to make it. I think I said that wrong. The chances of the world ending or you dying by age 35 or 40 are a lot lower than somebody who's in their 40s trying to make it to their 60s. So this is the time. And that's what I can't stress enough. I wish I had more of it. I don't. Since I've learned these things about investing, about options, about trading, about EV, all of these things I've been studying and actually putting into action. My portfolio right now, since I restarted, not since I started, because I did take that loss at the beginning of the year, but I'm chipping away at that, and I'll be back to even by the end of the year, probably. But as far as when I restarted trading again, I'm now at 15% since I started, and if I were to annualize that, that's almost a 60, 15, 30, 40, 45% return for a year. If I could do that from my 20s to 40, 20 to 40, oh my God, the compounding interest, to just see the numbers continue to grow, and then they explode at one point, they become exponential. Yeah, I'd have been financially free right now. I would be fully retired right now if in my 20s I had invested. And it didn't even require a brain. You could have just put it in the fucking S&P 500 index and got 12% returns, and I would have been enough to retire right now, especially since I'm not a huge consumer. More minimalist. Not as minimalist as I'd like to be, but I'm getting there again. I'm starting to learn from my mistakes again that I make over and over again. But that's what you should be doing in your 20s. That's a no-brainer. You've got all the energy. You're at your most productive. You're most likely to be able to work. And you don't have to... I forget the name of the guy. There's a janitor. He worked as a janitor. Minimum fucking wage for 30 years, I think it was. And then, he got to retirement age. Didn't do anything spectacular. He just went to work, went home, probably drank a beer, watched football or something. I don't know. But he died. And it turns out he had like 8 million or something like that. Look it up. Look up the janitor that was a multimillionaire at retirement age. Because he just kept buying stock. In small amounts. With his minimum wage fucking job. And he was a multimillionaire by, I think he got to 60 or something like that. Of course, he didn't spend any of it. Just let it keep growing. Take that lesson if you're in your 20s. Stop buying shit that you can't afford. A credit card is not your friend. And if you can't use it properly, as in pay it off every month, you don't deserve to have the credit cards. I currently don't deserve my credit cards. I haven't paid them off every month. I'm getting there. Getting to where I can pay them off every month. But as of right now, no. I'm improving. I just paid off another one, but I used it again, so it doesn't count. I mean, it makes them happy. But I'm still paying interest, is my point. And until I'm not paying interest, then I'm not considering myself successful with the credit cards. But doing that in your 20s is the opposite of what you should be doing. You should be all about, living a little rough, because your health is usually good enough to do that. Maybe not your mental health, looking around, but physical health, you could make some sacrifices, all right? I did my 10 years in the military. I've done a lot of sacrifice in my life. But I also did a lot of stupid shit. You're going to do stupid shit at that age, but if you don't save, if you don't invest, and I mean, I'm not talking about, I got a 401k. You know how many young people have a 401k and they're all proud of it and then they go and clean it out because they're broke? No, I'm not talking 401k. I'm talking if you just learn investing, personal finance, if you just learn those things, and the information is out there. It's been out there a long time. I started following the Dave Ramsey debt snowball bullshit the first time I became debt free. And as you recall, a lot of those retirement years were because I was debt free. I didn't owe anything and I kept my costs of life low. Otherwise, I wouldn't have that 5 years under my belt. I'd still be slaving away. Imagine how miserable a fuck I'd be here if I had an additional 5 years in this box. Oh, please don't let that be what's happening. But, getting to that point, doom spending is stupid in your 20s. I can't argue the same if you're in your 50s and you didn't do all of the right things and you're fucked. Then, yeah, I mean, whatever you got to do to survive, because you're not going to get to retire. And debt is slavery. I'm sorry. There's two types of situations. There's the type where you're working for the corporation and they're treating you like shit and they've got you by the balls and they're threatening you all the time and you have to just take it and your stress is way up here and your head's throbbing and you're just miserable. And the reason you're miserable is because you can't just look at them. Look them right in the eye and say, go fuck yourself. Want to know why you can't do that? Because you're in debt. You got bills. You got mortgages. You got car notes. You got all of this shit. You got all of this debt. And if you tell them to go fuck themselves, you're going to lose everything. Especially if you got assets. You're actually more stressed because you could lose all of that because if you file bankruptcy on assets, then you lose the assets. Or there's the guy that's debt free. And the boss says, I need you to go ahead and come in on Saturday and Sunday. And we're not doing overtime for that. Then you can look at him and say, fuck I am. Fuck you. You're going to come in and fill in because I'm not going to fucking be here. That is the difference. One person is pretty much enslaved to their debt by their own hand. You ever watch one of those old gladiator movies or TV shows or whatever? And then you always got the one gladiator who volunteered to be a gladiator because he was in debt because he was gambling or some stupid shit. Yeah, that's you with your credit card. You're a slave by your own hand to the corporations, to the finance, to all of this, to the printed up dollars that are made up numbers by the government. And yeah, that could it all end if you're in your 20s? Could it, this economy collapse? We've had political violence now. We've got unrest. I don't think that's as widespread as the internet's making it out to be, based on what I see personally with my own eyes. And I've been doing some round robins up here in the Northeast for quite a while now, and guess what? I don't see a lot of problems other than prices. But I don't think it's going to collapse in the next, 20 years. I think 20 years. 20 years, you probably got a good argument there. 20 years is a long time. That means you're in your 40s. So then, not only will you be fucked because you've been doom spending for 20 years, if you can even make it. Most, by the way, in their 20s, they end up in their 30s when they finally go broke. That's where they can't afford to make their minimum payments, and card balances are above their limits, and all of that kind of shit starts happening. Yeah, I don't see it happening. So if you're betting that you're going to take that $5,000 credit card out and buy you all kinds of happy horse shit and Labubu's, and you're going to have the whole Labubu collection, or dudes with their action figures and all the other stupid shit that people are spending money on. Yeah. That stuff, by the way, in the used market, because you remember I tried to do that reselling thing. That market's fucked right now, too, by the way. All of the thrift stores have raised their money. But that being said, you may think it's worth whatever the fuck is a collectible, but guess what? People aren't going to collect shit if they can't fucking buy food or keep a roof over their head. So the used market is absolute shit right now. I've backed out of being a reseller, but my girlfriend is still trying, and she has yet to sell anything. So there's that. So, and that's another option for doom spending that I'm surprised people don't do, is buy things that go up in value with your credit and then sell them. A lot of wealthy people do leverage credit investing, but when you invest under leverage, your risk is insane. So something goes bad, and guess what? You're broke. Nuke your account. Margin calls, they call it. But yeah, you can use credit to buy shit that goes up in value, but good luck if you're using a credit card that has a 30% fucking interest rate to buy a stock that goes up 14%, or to buy, something that I don't think anything's appreciating that'll outpace the credit card interest rates. So, unless you're leveraging some consolidation for 9 or 10%, which that's pretty good if you can get that. Just don't double your debt. But, I don't know, it's just, I still think there's no case to be made for doom spending. We could argue all day about how things are falling apart and everything's ending and all of that shit. And honestly, if I thought the writing was on the wall, I'd probably join Team Doom. And if you watch the internet enough, you're going to feel like that's where we're at. But that's not where we're at. You want to know how I know that? Because I'm not broke. All right? My bills are all being paid. I'm making enough of a wage that I'm like, all right, still feels like $30,000 10 years ago. So I'm close to the keeping pace with inflation, but I feel like I'm a little behind. I could still go in and buy that $15 fucking McDonald's meal and probably be okay, because mainly because I don't have rent. That's probably the big thing, cutting housing costs. But it's doable is my point. If I'm doing this right now and I'm being successful, I'm paying down my debts, my balances are coming down instead of going up. Remember, they were going up. That's why I jumped in here. I was like, I can't, I'm not fucking Congress. I can't just do a government shutdown whenever I hit my credit limit. It's not happening. That's why I'm in here. And I'm in here to set myself up, like I said, to accumulate more healthy retirement time. Because let's face it, when I'm in my 60s, I'm not going to be healthy. I'm probably not healthy now. But I'm healthy enough where I can do things if I have retirement time. Now, retirement time isn't just sitting on my ass in front of fucking TV either. There's things I do to make money. that I enjoy doing. That they just don't make. Turns out when you enjoy doing something, they don't pay as much. Imagine that. But that's my goal right now, and I'm seeing that I can achieve it. If things were as bad as the internet would lead you to believe, and as walking in the grocery store looking at the $20 fucking pound of seasoned roast beef would lead you to believe, I'd be like, well, fuck, I can't do this. I might as well quit now and maybe squeeze off some more time before I'm really broke. But as I see now, my needle is moving in a positive direction. I do see that I can achieve my goal. And I'm just a fucking truck driver. What the fuck do I know? You know, I feel like if I can get to that place, you know, having done all the bad, stupid shit and not saved properly for retirement, to where right now I'm trying to just invest to have an emergency fund when I get done. That's the other thing. A 6-month emergency fund would have went a long way. If I have a 6-month emergency fund, I'm good for a year of retirement, semi-retirement, you know, before I have to go back out and make more money. And that's if I don't make any money while I'm actually doing that. So that's a goal, and it's an achievable goal with some sacrifice. The sacrifice is being in this box away from my girlfriend, away from any friends that I have left. That's the sacrifice. And now it feel like, you know, with my best friend passing away and everything, that this is the time in my life I'm supposed to do that sacrifice, because I don't really have a lot going on other than my girlfriend at home. You know, there's not a whole lot going on. And you know, my mother's still keeping her shit together, so we're good there. That could change. We'll see. But for now, this is my window to get my shit together so I can get some more time off. And that's my goal. My personal goal is just some financial freedom. I know I'm not to the point where I'll ever be financially free the rest of my life. That's not in the cards. I didn't do it properly. I didn't start investing in my 20s to where I could be financial freedom probably by my 30s if I knew in my 20s what I know now. That being said, a lot can happen that could derail me, but as of right now, I see my goal is achievable. If that changes, you better rest assured I'd be on here bitching about it on YouTube. So that's, you know, that's my thoughts. I don't think we're to the point where doom spending is a justifiable decision. Even if you are older, I feel like you could still get something done. Yeah, you're not going to be wealthy. You're not going to own like a massive house or some shit like, you know, the boomers got to. You know, that's not going to be in the cards. But you should be able to get, if you stop spending all the time. Embrace a little bit of minimalism in your life. Get debt free if you can. Then, at the very least, you can squeeze some time out of the system. That's all I'm trying to do. So, doom spending, yeah, it may seem appealing because you're getting basically free shit. That's what it boils down to. If you buy a bunch of shit, run up your credit limits, run up your debt, do consolidation, double your limit, you know, and then if you have a house, you're putting fucking lines of credit and all that kind of shit, using equity loans and all of that. Yeah, you could probably squeeze $150,000 out of the system before you're bankrupt. That's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of time. I could see the appeal. But is that time going to be worth the suffering that comes later? And you're banking usually when you're doom spending that you don't think there's going to be a later, so fuck it. I'm here to tell you, anytime I thought that way in my life, there was always a fucking later, all right? Even now. Even though I keep talking shit. I'm like, I need to get out of this truck before I'm 62, because the average age of a truck driver the mortality rate is 62 years old. And believe me, from my personal observations in the trucking industry, that's exactly the fucking number. I think it's not high enough, given the amount of death I see out here on the highways. Thankfully, they're improving it. There's a 150,000 to 200,000 less untrained, unsafe truck drivers out here due to recent policy changes. So, and I'm noticing it, like, in the truck stop. Like, even now, like, midday at one of the more popular truck stops out here. I mean, the Denny's was jumping in there. But the trucking parking lot's kind of empty. So it seems to me like there was a lot of locals, like, a bunch of open spots over there, bunch of open spots over there. Fuel islands not even packed. Yeah, it's still slower out here as far as trucks, because I could tell you this is not normal. No. Even, middle of the day, I guess you could kind of say sometimes, but every truck stop I've been to has been, I could find parking. That's not normal. I was not able to find parking on a regular basis, except maybe midday. And now not only is there parking midday, but there's lots of parking. Like, pick whatever the fuck you want. Like, I'm pretty close to the truck stop, and yeah, it's very telling. So another thing, before we close out, I just want to say, remember, you have the power, money-wise. If you choose not to buy the expensive shit, the price will come down. The problem is we all have to do that. And the reason why it's so easy to get credit cards now is because they know that. And they know if they give you that shiny credit card that you're going to spend. And they want you to spend. The stock market relies on endless growth. And the last couple years, they've been faking the growth. Stock market's still jumping, still at all-time high right now. Even while everyone's on the internet bitching how expensive shit is, the stock market's still jumping. And my next video is probably going to be along the lines of the greed apocalypse that's going on. Like right now, Xbox, the last subscription that I haven't even gotten rid of yet, and it's only because I just haven't gotten to it. I'm going to get to it now. So Xbox just raised their subscription price for Game Pass, for the one that's even worth the shit, up to $30 a month. That's pretty close. Like, you can buy games and summer sales on Steam for less than that. Like, I've seen AAA games for $15 on Steam. Yeah, they're a couple years old at that point. I can wait, But yeah, they've raised their price to the point where people have had enough. See, gaming is a luxury. It's not a requirement. We can find something else to do with our time. And when they raised that price, they had so many cancellations of their subscription and a lot of outrage online that their server, where you have to go to get your cancellation, broke. It went down for too much traffic. And search terms for how to cancel my Xbox, they have all gone up. All because corporations are greedy. After telling their shareholders, which, by the way, I do pay attention to because if you can't beat them, you gotta join them. You gotta own these fuckers. Another reason you should be investing instead of doom spending is because then you become the owner class. Not as good as the people that have been doing it for years, but the more you own, the better you are financially. The more you'll keep up with inflation, assuming endless growth, of course, which I think that's coming to an end. But that being said, a bunch of people are canceling that. Then there was the whole outrage last week about people canceling their Netflix. But I went to the Netflix to check the share prices, thinking it was, might be a Another shorting opportunity. Then it was $1,000 a share. I'm like, there's no way fucking Netflix is worth $1,000 a share. That's more than Tesla. And Tesla's putting rockets in space and shit. All Netflix is doing is showing people with blue hair and fucking septum rings telling you what pronoun to fucking use. And how is that worth $1,000 a share? Their 52-week low is like 600 something or something like that. And it's all because morons get into the market and they're like, oh, I gotta own Netflix. I like Netflix. They taught me how to hate people. So, yeah, that I realize I'm dragging on a bit. But that's, things aren't looking good. I could see, but it's still not time for doom spending. In my opinion. Some may argue with me. Let me know in the comments if you made it this far in the video. What do you think? Doom spending? Doom saving? Start buying things that are going to matter after everything collapses? I mean, how would you do it? Would you buy it with the credit so that when the credit all goes to zero because everything collapses, then at least you have the shit? There's a whole lot of arguing. There's a lot of nuance to this. It's not just Gen Z out there buying Labubu's, all right? There's a lot of nuance to the thought process behind it, but I don't think we're there. Things suck. I'm not going to argue that. It feels a lot like 2008 right now, or 2020 if you look at the lockdown stuff. I honestly believe we need a collapse. We need a fucking recession. That's the only way these prices come down, people, is the market crashes. And all these rich corporate fuckers take a beating on the stock market. Yeah, that's what they need. They need an ass whooping in the stock market. They do. I'm waiting for it. I'm trying to plan for it. I've got some money pulled aside in case we get our crash. But it keeps going up. So now I feel like I'm FOMOing, which I know better. I know the proper way. I know to wait. So that when it does crash 20, 50%, then I can be like, oh, okay, now I can buy again. But we're not doing it. Why? They're just going to keep raising prices on the consumer until we break. And we're not going to break because everybody's fucking doom spending. Everybody is running up their credit cards. That's it. They're printing money. I can't afford my paycheck, but I got my Visa fucking gold platinum fucking, solid 24 karat gold fucking platinum shit card. And I'm going to run right in there and buy that fucking $25 McDonald's meal. And because, God damn it, I earned that McDonald's meal. I worked 40 hours this week and I need to go get my fucking, I own that. That's mine. I'm getting it whether you fucking like it. No, that's not. That's not how that works. And the banks love it right now, but pain is coming. If there's one thing that I can smell out here in the real world, not on the internet, is that there's economic pain on the horizon. And as a trucker, you're very closely tied to the economy. Things are, I'm now 1 month and 1 week, and I haven't hauled a single piece of freight. I've been moving empty trailers out of New England and into Ohio for a month and a week. 5 weeks straight. I'm on my way to Connecticut right now to grab another fucking trailer empty from another customer. I'm bobtail right now. And guess what? I'm bringing it back to Ohio. Empty. And the place I'm bringing it, I'm telling you, they're not doing the business that requires this amount of fucking trailers. I don't have to wait in line for 4 hours to get into this fucking place. You would think with all these trailers going there. No. And I'm still getting traffic backups, so people are still driving all over the place. And there are a lot of trucks in those backups. But I don't know. Something doesn't seem right out here. So maybe it's time to go up your credit limit and fucking buy some rice and beans and firearms and get ready for the collapse that's coming. I don't think we're there yet, though. I'll let you know when I feel like we're there. Because I know there's people a lot worse off than me right now. And if I start feeling like, well, fuck, I can't do this, then I'll let you know. But right now it's doable. And I think if it's doable, you should fucking do it. All right? Because I don't want to be a slave. I want my time. That's what I want. And I know I can't doom spend and have that. Doom spending is just delaying it. And then I become a fucking slave again. Or I go bankrupt and lose any appreciable assets I have. You know. And that's the thing. If you have an investment, you have all of that money, and you have debt, well, guess what? They can come for the stuff that's worth it. And the courts can be like, hey, yeah, you see that bank account? You had all that money? What? We'll take that. Take your house, take your car. You know, oh, you got a motorcycle and a boat there? Yeah, we can take those two. Oh, you have a safe deposit box? What's in there? You know. They can't take the money under your mattress, though. Or the gold bars that you got buried in an undisclosed location with a map. You know, kind of like the Vikings buried their wealth. All right. Please like and subscribe for more shit. And I'll make more shit. If you like this video, and you'd like me to make a lot more videos, become a channel member. And by the way, I am eyeballing my channel membership to release music albums, you know, of all the music I've been making. And I am making music again. I'm learning some new stuff, though, so it'll be a while before I put out anything worth a shit. But I am looking at releasing some of my music to my members on this channel, if you get a channel membership. It'll be through membership-only videos that I allow, you know, that let out my music. And I also am considering some, you know, that uncut shit I did. I'm thinking of doing some more of those just for members, you know. I don't want to take away from the amount, like, the content that I put out here on my channel isn't going to change much, but I'd like to put some extra stuff to make membership worth it. Or not, I don't know. Well, I'll try it. See what happens. But if you're interested in that, or you just want to thank me for the work I do on these videos that I also do in addition to my 70-hour work week, I still got another 400-something miles to go today, then yeah, feel free to join the channel membership, because $80 a month from YouTube is not enough for the amount of work I put into these videos. So, or the amount of equipment I've used on them too. Not that that matters. But yeah, some things I'm thinking about. I plan on making more shorts. Now that I've got the new phone, it seems like I could easily make shorts with it, and we'll see. So I haven't just really, I like to talk a lot, so the problem, I have a hard time getting into shorts. So there might be some more shorts coming to the channel. That won't be part of the members thing. That'll be just out there. So, but these are things I'm floating around in my head. Yeah. And if this channel were to, because it has been growing again, like they turned the spigot back on for growth, finally. It's not growing at a bleeding rate, but that could be my fault, not the algorithm. But yeah, I think it's starting to grow again, so. All right, it's starting to get a little sweaty hot in here. Have a nice motherfucking day. And shit. And, I don't know, when do you think everything's gonna collapse? Maybe I'm completely wrong again. I'm on the wrong side of things. Maybe I should be out there running up $100,000 in debt and enjoying my life for a couple years without worrying about, paying it back. Oh well. I'm still gonna do it the right way. I feel like I'm doing the right thing. I feel like the world isn't going to end quite as quickly as they're telling me it is. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Yeah. You could help me out, though. If you have $1 million laying around, there's a P.O. box number in the description. You feel free to Send me my retirement funds there. Have a nice motherfucking day and shit.